Today I'm going to be changing out the factory steering wheel out of my 2020 Ram 1500 Classic with this Vicrest carbon fiber steering wheel. Now there are a lot of options you can add to your steering wheel when you're ordering it. You can even get one with an LED display right up here where the 12 o'clock ring is. I chose to go with the full carbon fiber with the Alcantera grips and red stitching. All right, before we start, you are gonna need a few tools, one of those being a Phillips head screwdriver. You're gonna need some Torx bit. So these right here, I like these because you can actually attach them to a screwdriver like that with an attachment. You're gonna go ahead and order an airbag release tool. So I got this off Amazon for maybe $10. And then you're gonna need a steering wheel puller. So this kit right here, again, I got it off Amazon, and those two tools I'll link in the description down below. Other than that, that should be it. Let's go ahead and get started. The first thing we're gonna do is remove this lower kick panel. By removing the lower kick panel, it'll allow us access to remove the lower and upper part of the clamshell, allowing us to then reach the airbag to remove that. So with your Phillips head screwdriver, you're gonna remove this screw and this screw. So you're just gonna pull back towards you and up a little bit to get the ring around your key or your push button start lifted up, and then you pull towards you and it comes right off. Then you can just let that kind of rest down there by your pedals. Next, you're gonna use a T15 Torx and remove the screw on this side, one on the opposite side, and one more right underneath here. So having these longer Torx bit attachments really helps because you have to kind of go up in there. And if you use your traditional Torx socket and ratcheting wrench, it might be too thick to actually reach the head of the screw. So these work very well. So now with those three screws removed, you can actually unclip the upper clamshell. Go ahead and lower my steering wheel. And then the lower clamshell. Now up to this point, I haven't unhooked the battery, which is something you definitely want to do anytime you mess with the airbag. But in this instance, to unhook the airbag and get this tool where you need it to, you have to twist the airbag 180 degrees and get the bottom one from up here, because the clock spring, this bottom piece right here, is blocking your access to actually unhook that. So what we're gonna do is turn the truck on, turn the steering wheel. Now the steering wheel is upside down, and now that'll allow me to reach and unhook the bottom of the airbag. Once we do that, we're gonna go ahead and turn the truck back on, twist the steering wheel again back to center, and then we're gonna unhook the battery cables, let it drain out, and unhook the rest of the airbag and unplug it, and then put it somewhere safe. So you're gonna take the tool just like this, go in behind the airbag. There's one opening where the tool goes into. You'll feel some tension on it. As you can see, the tool is staying propped up. You're then gonna pry down while holding the front of the airbag, and you'll feel it release. Okay, I wanna point out, the moment the airbag even slides in just a little bit, it is going to hook up again. So you're gonna wanna put a Sharpie or something here to hold the airbag out. So when you rotate it back out, it's not locking back into place, and then you have to restart. Now the reason I said Sharpie is because I'll just put it in just like that, and it puts enough tension on the airbag down where it's not gonna slide back in and lock in place. Cool, now that we've got the steering wheel back at the 12 o'clock position, got my Sharpie in place, now I'm gonna use the tool to go ahead and unhook this side and this side of the airbag. Turns out it's actually easier if you turn it to the right just a hair and to the left just a hair. All right, now the Sharpie did fall out of the bottom, but as you can see, I've got the airbag completely disconnected. Now I'm going to unhook the negative battery cables. Now all I did was flip the airbag over so you can see these two clips right here. You just squeeze the sides and you unhook them. And then there's one plastic retaining clip holding it in place right there. Just carefully remove that. Now we've got our airbag completely removed. Just put this somewhere safe. Okay, now to remove the center bolt holding the steering wheel in place, you can do one of two things. I was going to use an impact, but I figured if you're just only using hand tools, you can use a breaker bar to get some leverage. And we are using a 13 mil. That's going to be right there. Now the trick is if I start pulling on it, the steering wheel starts to turn with it. So since I'm going to go lefty-loosey, what I'm going to actually do, I hooked up the negative battery cable again, turn the truck on. I'm turning all the way to the left to the stop. Then I'm going to go ahead and put my breaker bar. Just going to turn back just a little bit, and bam, just like that, it literally just let loose. Now hopefully this hasn't been done before since the factory, but bam. So now that that's nice and loose, I can go ahead and then switch to my ratcheting wrench. But before that, because the clock spring now is turned all the way to the left and we want that clock spring to be at 12 o'clock, we're going to go ahead and again crank the truck back on. Get this nice and straight, turn that back off, and then remove the bolt. Now again, I'm trying to use zero power tools to show you guys that you can do this with nothing but hand tools. And just like that, the bolt is removed. Now before you go in with the steering wheel puller, I'm going to go ahead and unclip the clock spring, which is this clip right in the middle. All right, now we've got our steering wheel puller installed, and all we have to do is slowly tighten it down until it breaks that taper on the steering wheel and the steering shaft. And just like that, it broke loose. Again, just being careful removing that clock spring harness. Feed it through the steering wheel, and then just make sure this top connector is at the 12 o'clock position, and we are good. Now we can go ahead and swap all the components off this steering wheel onto the new one. Now the first thing that we're going to remove on the front of the steering wheel are going to be these Torx 20s right up here in the top right corners, and these Phillips head right here in the lower corners. Now that we've got those 4 removed, we're going to go ahead and flip the steering wheel over. And on the back of the steering wheel, we're going to have the same exact thing. Right here in the corners, we got some Torx 20s, and then right down here, we've got some Phillips head. Now that that's done, we can actually split the top and bottom portion of the steering wheel and separate them. Okay, so now that they're loose, you're gonna notice when you're doing it that they're kind of stuck together, and really it's this wiring harness holding it together. So you're gonna flip it back over, and there are gonna be 2 clips right underneath these tabs right here. And those 2 clips are holding your horn buttons right here. So what we're trying to do is just release these. That way it'll let the whole clam open up. So again, with a pair of needle nose pliers, I just squeeze them together and push them through. One and 2. So now we're going to flip it back over. And now that you can flip it over, you're going to see that your steering wheel controls, you can actually access the connections now. So you're going to want to unplug those. And then you can remove the upper portion of the steering wheel. So now all we have to do is remove this back portion. As you can see, it's pretty simple. There's only a few things really holding it together. So now we're going to flip the steering wheel over and remove the bottom steering horn buttons the same way by squeezing the clips together and pushing them through. And now with those bottom steering wheel connectors removed out of the steering wheel, you can flip the back of the clamshell completely over. Now my steering wheel does have the heated steering wheel element, and that is the last thing to disconnect, which is just going to be right here. It's the only wire actually going into the steering wheel, and you just want to pull those apart. And now the bottom portion of the clamshell is completely removed. Now we can get to assembly. Now the last thing I need to remove are actually my steering wheel control buttons. I need to swap them over to the carbon fiber face that's going to go onto the new steering wheel. So removing and installing this is going to be real easy. They're just 3 Torx screws on the back side of each button. Now the next steps are the complete reverse of what we did earlier. You're going to start by putting the back part of the steering wheel in, then laying down the front of the steering wheel, making sure not to forget to plug in your steering wheel controls, and then putting in all your screws where they belong. Starting with the back is a little bit easier because it actually helps sync the front and rear clamshell together. One thing not to forget is if you had a heated steering wheel like I did, there's going to be one plug that doesn't get plugged in, and that is because that's the plug that goes to the heated steering wheel element. Just make sure you tuck that out of the way. Now with the steering wheel complete, all we want to do is go ahead and install it, fishing those clock spring and airbag wires through the top of the steering wheel the same way that we took it out. Now once you get the steering wheel on there, it's going to be kind of difficult to get it to break that taper and go ahead and get seated. So what you want to do is use your bolt and slowly feed it back in, because I actually don't have a steering wheel installer. That's the way I'm going to do it. And as it starts getting closer, actually that's not too bad. So right now I'm just trying to get the steering wheel seated. So you just want to make sure that bolt is nice and tight, and then as a precaution, I did add some red Loctite onto that. You want to make sure you go ahead and plug in your clock spring. Now with the steering wheel in place just like this, you're going to have your airbag wire sticking out, and then you're going to have this other wire that runs around down here that clips right here into the side of the steering wheel, and it's got this white connector. So the first connector that we don't want to worry about was that heated element connector that's still on the steering wheel, and the second one is going to be that white one I just showed you, because that also connects to the heated element. Just make sure you tuck it out of the way. So again, that white connector right here, we're just going to go ahead and tuck it out of the way where it would normally go. Now we've got our airbag connectors right here. I'm going to go ahead and grab your airbag and carefully plug in and just seat your airbag. All right, now that we've got the airbag in place, the next thing we're going to do is put the lower portion of the steering wheel in. Go ahead and grab this. Now we just take the top piece of the clamshell. This might be a good time to clean it if you want to. Now the last thing to go ahead and reinstall is going to be your lower kick panel. Now the last thing to do is connect the negative battery cable, turn your truck on, and make sure that all your buttons work, which I already did that, and everything works. Honestly, the steering wheel looks fantastic in here. I know it's very subtle. There's not a lot of other red inside this Ram, but this red stitching with the red/orange needles in the gauge cluster looks really good to me. So I'm super happy with that. The steering wheel just feels really good. Kind of reminds me of my TRX if that's the look you're going for. I also want to point out that you can actually also keep your matte black plastics here if you want it to flow any different than this. I went for the full-blown carbon fiber legs right up here. I just think it gives it a really nice look. All right guys, that's gonna wrap up today's video on the Vicrest carbon fiber steering wheel install on the 4th gen Ram 1500. Now that process is also gonna be the same on the 2500 and the 3500 HD trucks. If you want the same steering wheel that I have, I'll go ahead and put a link in the description down below, along with the options that I chose for my specific steering wheel. Now, if you want the steering wheel with the electric cluster at the 12 o'clock position, I'll go ahead and link that one down below as well. And if you need those special tools, I'll go ahead and put them to my Amazon store, link down below. Now, if you got any questions you want to do, leave a comment down below. I'll answer as best I can. Hit that like button and don't forget to subscribe. Until next time, guys, peace out.